Hello friends! We're counting down to the holidays with 12 days of Christmas drawings. The goal of this mini-series is to kickstart a daily habit of painting in Procreate in a fun, low-pressure way. So I invite you to grab your pencil, get comfy, and draw along with me. Today we're going to be painting this cute pair of cozy mittens. Let's first create a new canvas, and I have mine set to 4,250 pixels wide by 3,200 pixels tall at 300 dpi. These are essentially the dimensions of the iPad, so the canvas should fit your screen. If you don't have enough storage on your iPad for a file this large, you can use the pre-formatted screen size canvas, which will give you the same aspect ratio, but at a smaller size and lower resolution. Okay, I'm going to start with a quick pencil sketch, and I'm using the 6B pencil brush, which you can find in the classic brush library. Not doing anything too complicated here. I'm using fairly basic shapes and just keeping things simple and straightforward. Rather than drawing a second mitten, I'm going to swipe left to duplicate that layer. Then I'll select the transform tool, then tap flip horizontal to flip that layer, and then drag it into place. I'm going to adjust the angle a little too. All right, let's add that string to attach them, and I'm using loops and curves to make it a bit more whimsical. And then you can add a fun pattern to each mitten. Feel free to make the pattern as simple or as detailed as you like. You could even draw a different pattern on each mitten if you want to make it even more whimsical. By the way, if you're new to drawing and this feels a little daunting, or if you just want to skip the sketching process and dive right into painting, I created a template for you which you can essentially use like a coloring page. There's a link in the description for the free download. Okay, go to the sketch layer or your template layer, turn the opacity down, create a new layer, and drag that new layer below the sketch. I'm going to try one of the gouache brushes for this painting. Let's try Bottlenose. Choose a base color for your mittens. I'm starting with this really light icy blue. And you're just going to outline the entire shape of each mitten. My brush size is set to about 20%. Once you've got the shape outlined, increase the brush size and fill. I use this brush very briefly for the underpainting in a previous video, which I'll link to, but I've never used it for a full painting, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it will perform. Okay, do the same for the second mitten, starting with the outline and then fill. It's okay to be a little loose with the fill. The slight shifts in color and visible brush strokes will just help the painting feel more handmade and perfectly imperfect. Now create a new layer above the sketch or above your template. Choose another color. I'm going to use this lovely deep green and paint the top of the mitten. You can also use that same color for the details on the cuff as well. You can just loosely draw those lines on the cuff and partially fill some of those sections. If you're using the template, keep in mind that you don't have to follow every line exactly. You can go off script a little and do what feels natural or what looks best. Experiment with how you apply your strokes or play around with the brush sizes until you feel comfortable using the brush. Remember, you're working digitally, so you can always double tap to undo. Okay, now let's do the same thing for the other mitten. I love that this brush has a nice wide range in sizes, so you can drop the size down pretty small to get some of the finer details. Go ahead and follow the same process as before for this cuff as well. And again, I'm not being too precious about this at all. Sometimes keeping it nice and loose and imperfect adds much more charm and warmth to the illustration. Plus, this is supposed to be fun and relaxing, so we're not going to worry about making it perfect. On a new layer above the sketch, you're going to paint the stripes in a nice, bright, contrasting color. Now you don't want these lines to be straight. Use a nice loose grip and add a little curve to each line. Also make sure that each of your lines extends past the edges of the mitten. Now turn off your sketch or template layer for a second Then go to your stripes layer and reduce the opacity. Choose the eraser tool and make sure it's also set to the bottlenose brush. Now you can erase the parts of the lines that go past the edge. One thing to note is that the eraser tool on this brush is semi-transparent, so you'll need to make a few passes in order to erase the lines completely. Let's turn the opacity back up, turn the sketch back on, and draw the lines on the other mitten. Same thing here, nice, loose, curvy lines, and make them wider than the mitten shape. You can also adjust your brush size to make some lines smaller or larger, so there's some variety. Once again, reduce the opacity, turn off the sketch, switch to the eraser tool, and clean up those lines. There's kind of an invisible line here where the thumb attaches. Let's erase up to that invisible line. Then finish cleaning up those other lines. Don't forget to go back to the first mitten and erase up to that line as well. Okay, that's done. So let's turn the opacity back up on that layer and turn the sketch back on. Now let's paint those snowflakes. Since I'm using the same color, I'm going to just paint these on the same layer as the stripes. This is pretty straightforward. I'm just following the shape. And I really like that this brush gives you a nice kind of dry paintbrush look. I think that's really lovely. Of course, you can paint your snowflakes in a different color if you prefer. If you do try another color, I'd recommend creating a new layer. That way, if you decide that that color isn't working or you want to shift some things around, you can easily make adjustments on that layer without affecting the stripes you've already painted. I'm going to go back to the green I used earlier, and I'll go back to the layer where I painted those green elements. And I'm going to use this color to add the small details in the pattern. I'm just making little marks, not exactly stripes, just quick, short vertical lines to fill that space between the horizontal stripes. To balance the design, I'll add those same marks to this lower section as well. By the way, you're welcome to draw a completely different design on your mittens. I made the template for you as a guide, but you can certainly get creative and try a different pattern or use completely different colors. Now go to the top of the layer stack, create a new layer, and then switch to white, or whatever color will work best for your palette. Now we can add a few oval shapes on top of that last wide stripe. Or you can make these circles if you prefer, you can create a wavy pattern, whatever floats your boat. Now let's create a new layer. I've switched back to the green, but you can choose whatever color works best for your palette. Let's tackle the string. It may take a couple tries to recreate this flourish of loops and curves. The key is to keep your grip loose and use your whole arm. It probably won't match your sketch exactly, and that's okay. Same for the little bows as well. Keep it nice and loose. Okay, turn off the sketch or the template layer, then go to the base layer where you painted the mitten shapes. Create a new layer above that and make that new layer a clipping mask. Then choose a color that's slightly darker than your base color. We're going to add a little shading to create some definition and some separation. First, we can add a line right here where the thumb attaches and a little along the edge as well. Let's see, we can add a little shadow on the left edge as well. And maybe along some of these stripes. Go ahead and do the same on the other side. All right, and there we have our pair of painted mittens. I hope you had fun with this process, and I hope you'll join me for all 12 days of this holiday painting practice. There's a link in the description for where you can download the free drawing templates and get a peek at all the drawings we'll be creating for the next 12 days. I've also added a link to the 12 Days of Christmas Drawings playlist so you can easily find all the content in this series. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love if you'd give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.